You're down here. You leave the it's the slow. Yeah. Did I mean a good PowerPoint? All right, let's go ahead and get started then. Um, Hello, everyone, both those of us who are here in person, as well as probably many, many more of us who are joining online. Welcome to everyone for this new moon meditation meeting. It's great to have all of you here to join into this important work. So at the new moon, we work within the lower interlude of the monthly cycle. The lower interludes are generally concerned with manifestation, with objectivity, and with the worlds of form and of expression. Lower interludes, however, are no less spiritual than their higher counterpart. Both are necessary, for each completes the other. You cannot have a higher interlude without the lower, just as you cannot have spirit without matter. We can recall that hierarchy itself engages in deep and united meditation at both the full and the new moons. Their meditation relates divine purpose on one hand with the reality of humanity's expressed spiritual need on the other. And in response to these two divine facts, one above and one below, they meditate. And through this meditation, they form a center of magnetic love and pure reason, which relates the two. This magnetic center is the plan itself, the lodestar for human evolution, the guiding light and pattern upon which spirit seeks to operate in the world. And so, similar to hierarchy's work, our group meditation is also the result of a successful use of both interludes. This requires work with light, with sound, and with thought to mediate between the plan and its necessarily imperfect expression in and through humanity. This creative work involves brain, mind, and soul in equal measure. And it requires all three of those because, above all, our task is to ensure that the light and the energy of the soul is seen through into manifestation in time and space and on the physical plane. And so with this in mind, tonight's meeting will focus on the theme, the magical work of the soul. We will begin with the presentation on the theme, followed by our meditation, and then we will conclude, as we always do, with a group discussion. So before we proceed any further, let us first start by sounding the affirmation of the disciple. I am a point of light within a greater light. I am a strand of loving energy within the stream of love divine. I am a point of sacrificial fire focused within the fiery will of God. And thus I stand. I am a way by which men may achieve. I am a source of strength, enabling them to stand. I am a beam of light, shining upon their way, and thus I stand. and standing thus revolve, and tread this way, the ways of men, and know the ways of God, and thus I stand. Ooh. The magical work of the soul is the name given to the collaborative process between the white magician, or the disciple on the physical plane, and his own soul or angel on the higher planes of the abstract mind. White magic works from above downwards and is always the result of solar vibration. It cannot proceed or even really begin until the angel and its reflection are in rapport and able to work together. Esoterically, the results or objectives of this magical work are broad, meaning in that they can be described in very diverse ways. For instance, as alignment or illumination, also service, discipleship itself, and eventually initiation. The Tibetan gives 14 rules of white magic, and these embody the laws of creative work and the means whereby the soul can be brought into full creative functioning through the medium of the incarnated man or woman on the physical plane. We don't have time this evening to go through all the rules in detail or even in summary, but instead, and as a prelude to our meditation work, I'd like to just briefly share a few points which highlight the nature and the significance of our work in the lower interlude and at the new moon. This is a phase of esoteric work which is very, very important, and it's also a phase which is often misunderstood. And so one of the fundamental postulates upon which these 14 rules are based is called the theory of the evolution of light. This theory states that the whole purpose behind the evolution and the manifestation of being itself is the unfoldment of consciousness. This unfoldment of consciousness can also be referred to as the revelation of the soul in form. It is the soul that is the evolving agent and the evolving agency, and it evolves through the medium of objectivity. We could also say incarnation. Now, a similar but more specific way to describe this goal is that divinity seeks objectivity through what is called a gradual series of light demonstrations. At the lower interlude, we might therefore ask, what does it really mean to demonstrate light? Esoterically, light and matter are synonymous terms. This means that every single form veils light. It also means that every single form veils a greater and more subtle form. Likewise, in every gross expression of light, a greater light can be seen. We're familiar with the words, "In that light shall we see light." This means that only through the medium of intermediate forms or agencies can the highest light be known. And so we can see that light always signifies two things. First of all, energy, and second of all, the manifestation of this energy in a form of some kind. Now, this dual meaning is obvious in the context of the magical work of the soul, for here we have essentially the creative interaction of two kingdoms in nature. On one hand, the fifth kingdom, which is the kingdom of the souls, and the fourth kingdom, which is the human kingdom. Both can be considered from the angle of embodied energy. Both are essentially two different grades of light, and both are forms or mechanisms of expression for some indwelling energy. Now, a key to what it means to demonstrate light in the context of human or even planetary evolution lies in the very simple but famous words of Christ when he said, "I am the light of the world." Light of the world here refers to the anima mundi, the world's soul, or the soul which is present in manifestation writ large, the soul which is present in all things of the world. Christ's statement affirms, when he said, "I am the light of the world," what he meant was that the soul in each is one with the soul in all things. And when this truth becomes a demonstrated fact, and when the all is demonstrated in each part, then the goal of evolution will have reached a point of relative completion. This is essentially the goal of the magical work, and it occurs through the demonstration on the physical plane of progressive grades of light. We might then ask, how is this demonstration carried out? The magical work is carried out essentially through, as I said, a cooperative effort or cooperative meditation between the soul on its high plane and the brain on its lower plane. A higher interlude and a lower interlude brought to a point of approximation. This requires a focusing of the energies on the part of the soul and a reorientation of force on the part of the personality functioning through the brain. But when this occurs, a point of light appears on the plane of mind. And as skill in meditation, which is essentially skill in creative thought, is gained, this point of light becomes a thought form, which embodies whatever measure of the plan the serving disciple can vision and grasp, and which he or she is prepared to put into operation. The 14 rules, which we're not going to get into in detail, govern the creation and the sending forth of this thought form on its mission. And so the process of building these thought forms is obviously a process of thinking in one sense. But what is often overlooked is that esoterically, the building process on the plane of mind is always the result of sound. And in this case, the sounding of the sacred word. And so we must recall that it is the man or woman on the physical plane that sounds the sacred word. And this sounding only becomes successful when it is blended with the sound or the voice of the soul. The importance of the physical plane and the physical plane sounding of the word cannot be overestimated. Only on the physical plane can one truly become the word incarnate. And this becoming the word is essentially what is meant by sounding. Thought form building, magical work, discipleship, all of these are living processes that must be sounded forth. And this sounding forth only occurs when the disciple sounds the word within himself as the soul and on the physical plane. When successful, this then affects the middle point of creative tension, which is the thought form on the plane of mind. And this thought form is the means whereby the plan is put into operation. And so ultimately, our task as a discipleship group is to transmit light in the most esoteric sense, so that it becomes, we might say, a demonstrated fact upon the physical plane. The type of light which we seek to transmit is essentially threefold. There is the light of knowledge, the light of wisdom, and the light of understanding. These are three aspects of soul energy, and humanity's task as the planetary light bearer is to carry these three aspects of soul light specifically to the soul in all forms. To accomplish this task, the higher and the lower interlude must be thought of as in a constant relationship at every phase of the work. Esoterically, the two interludes create a magnetic rapport or a magnetic field, which sustains and perpetuates the magical work through to completion. Maintaining this magnetic rapport is as simple as maintaining a constant attitude of discipleship, both in formal periods of meditation and outside of them as well. And so this lower interlude is far more deeply esoteric than just a period for reflecting on or thinking about world problems. Just as the higher interlude is far more practical and utilitarian than contemplative abstraction for its own sake. And so when working in the lower interlude, rather than just pondering on humanity's problems, we might wish to consider how and in what way human living on the physical plane constitutes a sounding forth or can constitute a sounding forth of the sacred word. Sound is precisely what causes the thought form to what we call grow and swell. And esoterically, to think does not necessarily just mean to engage in thought. To think means actually to live as the soul and to sound the Om as the soul, to love on the physical plane as the soul. It's because the soul is the thinker. And so only the soul can truly think. Only the soul can understand the plan. Only the soul is actually group conscious. And only the soul can work in all three worlds at once and remain detached. Only the soul is detached. And so to really work properly in the lower interlude, we must reconsider what it really means to think. The lower interlude has to do with an incredibly complex network of forces and of energies, but it is the application through experiment and through experience, through experiment and through experience of soul energies within that network, which constitutes esoteric work. And so it is the actual application of esoteric energies which constitutes esoteric work. Application is not an abstract mystical process. It is a living and a physical plane experience. And so with those thoughts in mind, let us now proceed with our meditation. This meditation we do every month at the new moon to strengthen the hands of the new group of world servers. We begin with a period of group fusion to unite as a group on all three planes and on the plane of soul. We sound together as souls and as a group the mantra. I am one with my group brothers, and all that I have is theirs. May the love which is in my soul pour forth to them. May the strength which is in me lift and aid them. May the thoughts which my soul creates reach and encourage them. alignment. We recognize our place as a group within the heart center of the group of world servers. We mentally extend a line of light and energy towards a spiritual hierarchy, the planetary heart center, to the Christ, the heart of love within the hierarchy, and towards Shambhala, where the will of God is known. Higher interlude. Hold the mind focused for a few moments on the planetary role of the group of world servers, mediating between hierarchy and humanity, responding to hierarchical impression, and mediating the plan into existence. Meditation. Reflect on the seed thought, with the impression and expression of certain great ideas. Humanity must be brought to the understanding of the fundamental ideals which will govern the new age. This is the major task of the new group of world servers. Precipitation. Visualize the precipitation of the will to good, essential love throughout the planet, from Shambhala to the planetary heart, the hierarchy, to the Christ, the group of world servers, through all men and women of goodwill everywhere in the world, and finally through the hearts and minds of the whole human family. Lower interlude. Consider the many ways in which the power of the one life and the love of the one soul are working out in the world through members of the group of world servers, so building the thought form of solution to world problems. Distribution. As the great invocation is sounded, we visualize the irradiation of human consciousness with light and love and power. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men. Let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of men. May Christ return to earth. From the center, where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, the purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center, which we call the race of men, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. Ooh. 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 Thank you, everyone. So we now proceed to the part of our meeting where the floor is open for discussion um, on the theme or on the meditation work itself, of course. In this case, this month's theme is closely related to the lower interlude. I thought we might start off by actually taking that up as sort of a prompt and I'd like to invite everybody to share their own experiences of the lower interlude, how they experience it, how they work in the lower interlude, how they either in meditation formally or maybe in a more abstract sense, what it means to them. But really just focusing on your sort of applied experience. Perhaps we can get different perspectives on this important aspect of our work. There is, of course, the lower interlude in one sense is a very archetypal thing. So there's really no wrong answers here because our own sort of operation or interpretation or application of something sort of very, very superlatively great. So yeah, if you'd like to make a comment, you can raise your hand and we'll unmute you to speak. Give everybody some time to reflect. Is there a hand? David. All right, go ahead, David Trice. David, are you there?
There I am. Hello?
Hi, David. We hear you. Go ahead.
Yes, when I get in trouble and confused about things, one of the things that the Tibetans said was a mantra: let reality govern my every thought and truth be the master of my life. I often use that when I want to invoke the soul, which it does, and it helps quite a bit. Just thought I'd share that with the group.
Thanks, David. That's a really practical and really powerful comment. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's yeah, I mean, you think what confusion really is, and what a mantra like that, what reality really is, and what sounding those words really does. And you realize it's not just an insignificant thing, to be able to do something like that, to have the privilege of those words and of speaking them and of those words having an effect. I mean, I gave a lot of really sort of strong comments about the lower interlude, but there really is no, it's really just more of a sort of technical, interpretation, sort of one angle of looking at it. There really are many different ways of looking at the lower interlude. And of course, I know our meditation instruction says something like, sort of consider the many ways these power of the one life and love of the one soul are working out in the world. And so building the thought form of solution of world problems. So it's a consideration of for reflection on, but we can always take instruction, as sort of a starting point for our work. And from there, we should feel free to build, and to apply and to experience and even experiment a little bit. You don't want to get outside the scope of what the group's doing, but you can within the ring pass not of our work, there's a lot of room for experimentation. And I think sometimes we forget about that. If we don't do that, there's things get stuck. They don't move. So it's part of the interlude. Work of the interludes as well as means there's a constant cycle. There's a constant movement. And essentially there's constant breathing. My own personal experience in both the interludes, if I get stuck, which happens sometimes, then I actually just think of breathing within the context of whatever stage it is. And like, okay, so if I'm trying to align and maybe it feels a little stuck, you know, what does it mean to breathe within that alignment? And not to take that too far, but just to say, okay, well, if it had motion and all things have motion, what would an alignment that had motion look like? To me, that's always been very useful. Oh, John Heron. I think you lowered his hand, maybe. Oops. You want to unmute there. That's Peter. You just type his name at the top, he'll come back up. Best to unmute. Oops.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Michael.
Hi, John.
I would love to be able to say that I have some insight on the differentiation between the interludes, lower and higher. But to be honest, friends, I don't. And I would say that the instructions we receive from the Tibetan are possibly deliberately vague in that each is to find their own way, partially as a learning experience and because there are different paths, different roads, and different expressions. And if the books had given out one particular energy or thought form, we would all gravitate to that. So perhaps it's up to us to see where the mind and soul lead us during the higher and lower interludes, each reflecting our different rays and what we can bring to bear for the path of humanity at the time. And with that, I'll turn it back to you.
Thanks, John. That's a great comment. Appreciate that. Thank you. Peter, just hit it once. Yeah, and then it'll prompt him.
Excellent. Thank you, Michael. And thank you, John, for that contribution as well. What comes to mind when we think about the, idiosyncratic ways that we all experience or express ourselves within the interlude is really what we are doing in consciousness within ourselves. I think that one of the things that applies to me during the interlude is the ability to stay focused or stay centered within the rhythm of the heart center. And then also to channel attention into the third eye, the Ajna center. It sort of brings coherence with heart and mind, or heart and head, and brings one into that state of homeostasis. I think, Michael, yourself, you also mentioned the breath, and the breath is the doorway between the external and the internal. But when one finds that there is, certain vibrations or energy within the body that can prevent one to actually be expressing the words that are being said, I think it's really finding what strategy keeps consciousness centered, and a light, sound, vibration, focusing on the light within the ajna, focusing on the vibration within the heart, and also listening to the static, the stillness in the atmosphere can bring one into that state of homeostasis, and certainly entering into like a trance-like experience to then permeate or penetrate the veil of illusion. Thank you.
Thanks, Peter. Yeah, a lot of people find the energy of the centers really powerful sort of doorway into working with the soul itself. So that's amazing. I mean, the Tibetan says, I believe the heart, throat, and the ajna is absolutely central to cooperation with the soul and the magical work. So those really are the three primary centers. Of course, the head itself being the soul, being the representative of the soul within the body. John Reisenman.
Michael, I'd like to thank you so much for your the thoughts that you've provided us to consider this evening. I really appreciate your perspective regarding how to look upon the lower interlude in a way that's somewhat different from me. And so I appreciate that and thank you. You asked the question how we individually might view the lower interlude and the new moon meditation. And for me, the lower interlude and this particular meditation really is a time just to focus on the group of world servers, this tremendous body that is so vitally important to the unfolding of the plan. These servers, as we know, have some measure of soul consciousness, soul alignment. Otherwise, they wouldn't be in this body. And so we've also learned that hierarchy works through the group of world servers. And during this time of transition, the work that these servers are doing is absolutely critical. And so this new moon meditation provides us with such a wonderful opportunity to provide them with specific energetic support in the work that they are doing. And we mustn't forget that probably many, if not all of us who are engaged in this meditation right now are members of this body and have an important role, a contributing role to play in the functioning of this body as well. So thank you, Michael, for your perspective tonight. It's much appreciated and valued.
Thank you, John. Appreciate that. Appreciate your thoughts. She had her hand up, but then took it down. Okay. Maria, I'm hearing that you had Maria Christina Donahue, you had your hand up, but then it went down. So if you do want to talk, just raise it again and we'll unmute you. But... Okay. All right,
I'm not sure if I want to talk. The thoughts
okay.
are slow in coming, but yes, indeed, thank you. You brought many threads that are so present in the esoteric community together. Of dualities, we're in the time of the Sphinx, which is the sign, that's a very nice kind of like dualistic field right there. And as we enter into the lower interlude, although right now we're not quite there, because it's such a rhythm that you go through during the year. And I have to confess that the powerful moments of the higher interlude that were experienced, it seems far away. I find this a very, Leo's usually the most dog days of Leo. Serious, I don't know, very challenging days. But as we were being present with the group today and the questions you were asking more specifically, it's just kind of between the higher interlude and the lower interlude. The thought of the group onto Karana came to mind across not just as our meditation in the moment, but through the time of the zodiacal liturgical year, so to speak. The Antakarana reaching from the highest to the lowest, ta 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 ta, or thoughts of that nature. And I do tend to go up and down, recognizing the need to perhaps find that poised point at the center of the long limit cross. So anyway, there you go. Thank you.
Yes, a challenge for all aspiring disciples, all disciples really, is to find the point at the center. And yet always moving, always rotating with the cycles, and yet not moving. And one son, Steve Nation. Steve Nation.
Hi, Michael. Thanks for that talk. I really appreciated it. And I'm really interested in this question because I think it's so important to shine a light on the difference between thought in the higher interlude and thought in the lower interlude. And one of the thoughts that occurred to me is I really liked all the comments, but John Reisman, that's where I echo is this in the lower interlude, really bringing the shining a light on consciousness within the new group of world servers, and really almost witnessing the energetic quality of light that is present in the incarnated mind, the sort of creative mind of humanity. I really liked, Michael, you made a question earlier in the talk about demonstrating light. And I was thinking about what does that mean to demonstrate light? And to me, that's quite related to the lower interlude, because in a sense, light, when we shine a light with the mind, we see differently. And so I was thinking about how in the lower interlude, in a sense, we're looking at light in terms of qualities of consciousness, specific qualities of incarnated consciousness, sort of in the world of matter, where humanity, the new group of world servers, is bringing to birth qualities that we can think of as qualities of each of the rays, and really anchoring them in matter and in expression. So there's a lot to think about in these. What do we mean by, and how do we think in the lower interlude, use mind in the lower interlude, and use mind in the higher interlude? It's so very different. So thank you. Cheers.
Thanks, Steve. It reminds me of a quote from the Tibetan that I came across when I was preparing for the talk. He says, "Light is known by that which it reveals." No, light is known by what it reveals, or through what it reveals. And to me, that's always been a central question as well. Okay, well, all this esoteric work, and then you look at the world, okay, where is it exactly? You know, where is the light exactly? Not like physical light, but where is it and how is it operating? And it comes down to what is actually being revealed in the sense of consciousness. So thank you so much, Steve. That's exactly we're on the I feel the same way. It's probably all right, so I think we'll conclude then, because it's just a few minutes past 7, and it seems there's no more hands. Thank you all so much. We look forward to seeing you for our next full moon meditation meeting, which is in the sign Virgo, and which occurs Saturday, September 6th at 3 p.m. The full moon itself will be the following day on the 7th. And after that, we'll have our next new moon, which will also be in Virgo, so a second Virgo new moon. And that will be on Friday, September 19th at 6 p.m. Those of you who are interested, just a note to say that our 2026 full moon meeting schedules and full moon charts will be ready very shortly. We will send that out to our full moon mailing list. If you're not on that list, you can email us and request to be added at newyork@lucistrust.org, and we'll add you to that list. So thank you all for your work, and have a blessed evening.